Sorry, I started talking before I was supposed to talk. So welcome everybody for Online Payroll for Today's Accountant, brought to you by Intuit Academy and myself, MB Raimondi. Just a couple administrative details as soon as it gets over there. There we go. We should be switching here. Okay, admin details. I'm watching it on another monitor, so I'm trying to make sure that you're seeing what I'm talking about. So administrative details, if you look at your resource button at the bottom of your screen, you'll get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. So I think it's the right-hand one, says download slides, and you will be able to download the slides if you want. Just to let you know that this course is 1 hour of CPE credit, so it is a 1-hour course. And we will have built-in Q&A time. I don't have any Q&A slides, so as we go through, if I think there's a good stopping point to go and review the questions, I will absolutely do that. And I don't have anybody answering questions for me today like we did in the What's New in QuickBooks 2013, so you won't get any answers until I probably will address them verbally. So again, 1 hour of CPE. You will get an email at the end of the session or something thanking you for attending, and that's where you're going to click and get your CPE. Now, in order to get CPE, you have to put in a keyword, and that keyword will come a little bit later in the session. And once I'm at the keyword and get off that slide, I can't go back to it again. So you may know who I am. My name is MB Raimondi. I am a CPA and a Certified Information Technology Professional. That's a CPA, AICPA designation. I am a QuickBooks Advanced Pro Advisor, as well as being certified in Enterprise Solutions and Point of Sale. I've been using QuickBooks since the DOS version. I also have been, I don't see this changing on my other screen. Oh, never mind, I do. Anyways, you can read all of that. And I don't work directly for Intuit. I do a lot of teaching for them, and I'm very honored that they asked me to present to you because I love talking about QuickBooks. You know, I mean, what's better than talking about QuickBooks? So let's talk about our learning objectives. Our learning objectives, after completing this course, you should be able to assess the needs of your clients, assess the needs of your firm, determine what online payroll product is appropriate. We're going to talk about all the payroll solutions, including desktop, but I will tell you we're not going to spend very much time on the desktop because most of us are familiar with it, but we do have some slides in there. There's also an appendix today that gives you some screenshots, a little bit more about QuickBooks Online Payroll, which is a little bit different than Intuit Online Payroll. So we need to be able to figure out what the differences between the payroll offerings are and what are the key features and benefits. So along that, in order to meet our learning objectives, our agenda today is generally to talk about changing client needs. We're going to spend some time talking about the cloud because that's, you know, every webinar it seems that we talk about today has, there are so many cloud solutions that both accounting like QuickBooks Online and desktop with apps, and those apps, a lot of them are cloud-based apps that integrate with QuickBooks Desktop. So we'll talk about changing client needs in the cloud. We will go through the Intuit payroll lineup, basically going through all the cloud payroll solutions and then all the desktop payroll solutions, and then just a little bit of a conclusion there. So let's get started. Talk about changing client needs. This slide was put out by a study that Intuit had done last year in 2011 on how small businesses are processing payroll now. And when you look at this slide, it's pretty amazing that there are 30% of people that are still doing payroll manually. And that's a lot. I mean, that's really a lot. Some are using outsourced payroll solution, which is not necessarily the best solution when you are using QuickBooks because somehow you have to get that information into QuickBooks. Of course, Intuit has its own payroll solution. Some of us are providing payroll for our clients, and then I don't know what other is. If they're not doing it manual and they're not using a payroll service, what are they doing? I'm not sure. Maybe they're looking it all up in the Circular E. So as we look at this, we have a great opportunity for us to help our clients, to either help them pick the right solution or to collaborate with them, like using Intuit Online Payroll for Accountants, or actually to provide payroll for them, either using the Enhanced Desktop Solution or IOP4A, that's Intuit Online Payroll for Accountants. Now, I will tell you at the end we have something that's called Snap Payroll. If somebody insists on doing their paychecks themselves, it's really kind of cool. I've got a screenshot to show you at the end. I don't know when it came out, fairly recently, because I didn't know very much about it until I started working on this payroll presentation. So let's talk about the level of involvement related to the payroll. So we have this client that has all sorts of things that they need to talk about and all sorts of things that we need to evaluate. So what are their needs? What are their abilities? What software are they using now? What do they want to do? How easy is it for them to access whatever solution? Where are they located? Are they internet savvy? What skills do they have? So these are all questions that we need to work through with our clients. I mean, things like, do they have more than one state? Do they need job costing? Do they travel a lot so that they need to be able to process payroll when they're on the road? And yet, do they know enough about payroll to do any of it on their own? What accounting software are they using? Are they using QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop? Are they using Windows? Are they using Mac? And the whole thing of what their wants are, I think it's really important to listen to your client to see what their expectations are, what they want to do. It might not be our final recommendation, but the beauty of that is that we can find out what it is they're interested in doing so that we can gear them towards the appropriate solution based on, again, what their abilities are and what their needs are. Certainly you need to know where they're located, or do they have more than one location? And lastly, but certainly not least, is what skills do they have? You know, both computer skills, internet skills. Are they comfortable with the internet, or are they willing to learn the internet? Certainly as we start working with, I mean, this is a vague generalization, but as we start working with more and more younger clients who are so internet savvy that they automatically look to the cloud for a solution, where some of us old-timers are so used to using the desktop that although we may embrace the internet solutions as I do, it might be a little bit more training there. And then here we are sitting thinking, how can I best help my client? So you really want to make sure that you just spend some time talking to them, and certainly coming to this payroll class is going to help you get educated on what you need to know to both recommend the right solution or decide what way your practice is going to move. So moving to the cloud. Very interesting screenshot that I repurposed. I did not steal it. But Heather Kirkby from QuickBooks Online had this on one of her presentations on just kind of the evolution of the cloud. And it's pretty amazing to me. You know, 1971 was the first email, so that's a pretty long time ago, 1971. And for 20 years, that's about all we had on the internet. And then we got the first web page. And certainly since the 90s and definitely into the 2000s, the cloud has exploded. So cloud just meaning internet access. So now we see nearly every aspect of our lives get touched by the cloud, from how we learn. I mean, you're here at this virtual conference. How we shop, how many people are Amazon Prime members. I love Amazon. How we communicate both with email and with instant messaging and remote access. How we do our banking. A lot of us pay our bills online directly at our bank, and then maybe download it into QuickBooks. And it just, we learn about what's going on in the world. There's a lot out there today about the debate, so we can take a look at that. I mean, that's how the world is going. So we are changing to moving with the cloud, and certainly we as consultants and pro-advisors and accountants and bookkeepers need to be aware of what's out there, and we probably should be embracing the cloud also. And the beauty of it is it gives us all sorts of possibilities of how we can interact with our client. So our next couple slides just show us a little bit more about accounting in the cloud. So in 2009, so we're talking 3 years ago, 15% of QuickBooks prospects chose the cloud. And that's compared to today, where we have 50% of QuickBooks prospects are choosing the cloud. Now, part of it may be that it is because things like QuickBooks Online in the last few years has become more and more robust. I know Stacy Kildall is doing a QuickBooks Online session this afternoon after my presentation and after a break in the exhibit hall. But it's a pretty robust program, and you certainly will have a lot more clients now that are appropriate for QuickBooks Online than ever were before. And I know there are times when I go out and talk about QuickBooks Online to other pro-advisors, and they basically say, well, you know, I looked at QuickBooks Online a few years ago, and it didn't do what it needed to do. But there are so many new features that have been added to it to make it easier and easier to use in the cloud. And you can see by these numbers that QuickBooks Online is meeting the needs of a lot of people. 50% of QuickBooks prospects are choosing the cloud-based solution. So what are the cloud benefits? I'm sure if you've been watching webinars lately, this is not going to be anything new to you. You've probably already heard it before, but it doesn't hurt to just kind of go over it again. So you don't have to travel, right? Because anywhere you have internet access, you will be able to access whatever features that you're looking for. It gives us a way to collaborate not only with our clients, but also with our employees. So again, a lot of employees now would like to work from home a couple days a week, and they may be able to do that if you are working in the cloud. It doesn't mean that they have to come to the office. Well, what does that mean to you? It means that you might be able to have a smaller office because you don't have employees coming in all the time, you know, using up office space there. You don't have to send files back and forth. They're in one central location. There's no purchasing of big servers. So certainly with our small businesses that are just starting out, it really makes a lot of sense to either use QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop in a hosted solution, and then the related payroll that we need to, because buying a server and paying your IT people to install it and get everything set up is really pretty expensive. Now, other cloud benefits could be that what software you're using, it has automatic updates like QuickBooks Online. Every 4 or 6 weeks, because it's a subscription-based service, they just push information out there, new features out there, and so you don't have to make that decision of when to buy new software. Security, I find, is much better in the cloud than it is on our desktop. Too often I find that people do not put passwords on, do not back up. They say that they're going to, and they don't. Even if they try and set up for an automatic backup, they never check it to make sure it's backing up correctly. So security is a huge issue of why you might want to move to the cloud. Flexibility. So flexibility, I guess I'm really talking about scalability there also. So you don't have to purchase a bigger server if you need more bandwidth. You don't have to buy all your users up front. You can add users as you grow or your clients as they grow. So it's nice to have that option. Disaster recovery. All these cloud-based programs, they are storing the information on redundant servers, and they have disaster recovery plans. So if somebody's server goes down in their office, it's a little bit harder to get up and running than it is when you're working in the cloud. And certainly it's better for the environment when we are keeping our paperwork up in the cloud. If we even have any paper, we could have our vendors email our bills in. We can have our employees fill their timesheets in online, so there's no paper timesheet anymore, and that integrates into our accounting software. So it's a lot better for the environment to do that. So what does this mean related to payroll? Now, here's a slide of the payroll solutions, kind of the Intuit online payroll, and it's broken down by who is handling payroll. So is the client handling payroll taxes? Is the accountant handling payroll taxes? Is Intuit handling the payroll taxes? So that's kind of how we set it out. And these are the major major payroll offerings that Intuit has. And the ones in blue are the cloud-based solutions. And we'll go over all of these. So this next slide here is going to show us the cloud payroll scenarios. So the cloud payroll scenarios that we have are Intuit Online Payroll, and along with that goes QuickBooks Online Payroll, which is integrated into QuickBooks Online, and then Intuit Online Payroll for accounting professionals, where we can either provide payroll services or we can collaborate with our clients on payroll where they do some of the work and we do some of the work, and then Intuit Full Service Payroll. So again, we'll go through each of these payroll scenarios so you see how all of that works. So the first one that we're going to talk about is Intuit Online Payroll. So when we're talking about Intuit Online Payroll, cloud-based solution. Now, how Intuit Online Payroll works is really all you need is an internet connection. So basically, you set up the payroll, and there's a payroll setup interview that will walk you through it. So Intuit Online Payroll, we call it IOP. So and as long as you have an internet connection, you're good. You can even use your mobile phone. You have direct deposit, which is free with your IOP subscription. Paying taxes, obviously you're going to pay your employees, and then you can do direct deposit. Paying taxes is very convenient. We can e-file or e-pay a lot of state taxes and all of our federal taxes. We can even get email reminders to pay taxes and file forms. You have access to a lot of the state forms with more being added, and a lot of them can be e-filed. If it can't be e-filed, then you will get the information to be able to print them off and either go out to the state's website directly or mail them in. You have unlimited access to the support team, so that's included in IOP. And there's even a Mac version, so Intuit Online Payroll will integrate with QuickBooks for Mac. Now, something to say is you don't even have to be using QuickBooks. You could be using Intuit Online Payroll without using QuickBooks. It's just that, we're talking about this more in the context of how it works with QuickBooks. But again, you can, if you just need to process payroll and you're not worried about an accounting system, then you can use Intuit Online Payroll. You don't have to be a QuickBooks user. So let's talk about a little bit more about how Intuit Online Payroll works, starting with the paychecks. So when you sign up for Intuit Online Payroll, there are two subscription choices, Basic and Plus. So Basic, similar to our desktop solution, there's no paying taxes or filing forms, but you get all the tax tables and you can create the paychecks. And then Plus has, and we'll talk about this more a little bit later, Plus has all the features of Basic, plus it has the ability to e-pay a lot of taxes and e-file a lot of your forms. Now, something else I want to show you as I was doing the research on this is that there is also a version of Intuit Online Payroll for household employees. I may be the only person who has my mother's caregiver on payroll, because I am a CPA, so I have that option with Intuit Online Payroll to sign up for household employee, to use that just for that type of situation, which is kind of cool. And just to note, in all of when you're creating the paychecks, in all the Intuit Cloud Payroll offerings, you can print paychecks as well as do direct deposit. And what I like, too, is that we can be reminded about when we have to, and we can get an email reminder about when we actually have to create the paychecks. Now, the next slide is going to show how the taxes work. So as you look at the screen here on how the taxes work, you can see that you pay your federal taxes, you pay your state taxes, you can file your W-2s. If the ability, depending on which subscription you sign up for, you either can print the forms, and you may have the ability to actually e-pay the taxes and e-file the forms. And again, look at it in our blue box at the top there. You can easily manage payroll not only from the internet but also from a mobile app, which is really pretty cool. Now, when you're printing off your W-2s, you can either print on plain paper or you'll be able to file them electronically. We can get an email reminder for the tax filings. And another thing about the W-2s is they can be imported into TurboTax. Now, what I don't know, and I guess I didn't even think to ask the question until right now, was can we import it into any of Intuit's professional tax products like Pro Series or Lacert? I'm not sure the answer to that, but I do know that we can import it into TurboTax. So on our next slide, we want to talk about the accounting integration. So I said that Intuit Online Payroll, you don't have to be using QuickBooks, but you can be using QuickBooks, and you have an integration both for desktop, Windows, QuickBooks for desktop, either Windows or Mac, and for QuickBooks Online. So it was interesting, I mean, when I was answering questions in Michelle Long's What's New in QuickBooks 2013 in the last session, somebody asked that question on payroll, on the Intuit Online Payroll, is can you load it integrate it with QuickBooks Online? And the answer is yes. Now, QuickBooks Online has its own integrated payroll, but it may be that you, for some reason, want to keep payroll separate. You can do that and then import that information into QuickBooks Online. There are also other accounting solutions that Intuit Online Payroll will integrate with. Quicken is one, Peachtree is one, and there's no extra charge to go ahead and do that integration. Now, I talked before about how there are two subscriptions. There's a basic subscription and a plus subscription. So basic, you get free support, you get unlimited number of payroll, so you're paying that flat fee per month, and you can run a weekly payroll. You can run a weekly payroll plus do your commission payroll and your bonus payroll, and you're just paying that flat fee there, and then plus $1.50 per employee. So notice at the bottom there it says monthly fee plus $1.50 per employee. So that's basic, and you have that check creation, and you do have direct deposit. Plus has all the features of basic. Plus you can pay and file your federal and state payroll taxes in all the states in which you do business. You can do your federal and state tax forms. They're automatically going to pull information from IOP. And then there are electronic tax filings and the W-2 forms. And, of course, again, you also have free support with the Plus subscription. Now, who is Intuit Online Payroll best for? People who want the convenience of online availability, new or small businesses that maybe need payroll processing only. If they don't need QuickBooks financial software for whatever reason, you might be using IOP. If they want the payroll details separate from the QuickBooks file, when you don't want to kill a tree. And then certainly if you're using any of the QuickBooks solutions, either desktop or online, the fact that you have that integration makes it a lot nicer to be using an Intuit offering. Now, who is Intuit Online Payroll not the best fit for? Anybody who has more than 150 employees. So they put 150 employees at their cap. So that's something to keep in mind there on that payroll solution. Now, there are other reasons. It doesn't do third-party sick pay. You can't do amended returns. It doesn't do a calculation for certified or union payroll. There's no built-in third-party checks to garnishment agencies or insurance companies. There's no after-the-fact payroll like what we have in the enhanced payroll for accountants. So there are reasons that you would not choose Intuit Online Payroll on there. So when we talk about that it integrates into QuickBooks Online, the question often comes up, and I will take questions after we get through this online payroll section here, is can't you just prepare payroll in QuickBooks Online? Well, QuickBooks does. If you're using QuickBooks Online, there is a QuickBooks Online payroll. And If you're using that, it works basically the same way. The screenshots are a little bit different, and they are in the appendix. So look at the appendix. We're probably not going to go over that today at the end of the slideshow. So you can download the slideshow so you'll get all of that information. But you'll see some of the screenshots of what it looks like compared to what we just looked at on the slides for Intuit Online Payroll. What I did want to point out, though, is what is in QuickBooks Online Payroll versus what's in Intuit Online Payroll, because I say they're similar. And they are similar, but it doesn't mean that they're exactly the same. So the similarities, we've got the same workflow. We have the same pricing, so it's just added to our QuickBooks Online subscription. We have the free direct deposit. We can e-pay and e-file. We've got that live support. Now, differences? No accounting integration. We don't need accounting integration, right, because it's embedded in QuickBooks Online. There's no job costing in QuickBooks Online Payroll. Now, it's interesting because there is a little bit of job costing in Intuit Online Payroll, but there's not job costing in QuickBooks Online Payroll. Another thing that Intuit Online Payroll has, and you'll see this a little bit later when we talk about online payroll and online payroll for accountants, you can, with Intuit Online Payroll, do direct deposit of your vendor checks and issue the 1099s, but you don't have that with QuickBooks Online Payroll. So you think about QuickBooks Online Payroll, when you set up a vendor, you mark them eligible for a 1099, and you can prepare the 1099s and print them in QuickBooks Online. So you don't have that feature in the QuickBooks Online Payroll because it's kind of sort of built into QuickBooks Online itself. But that means no direct deposit of the vendor checks like you have with Intuit Online Payroll. So that being said, I'm just going to leave it on this slide for a minute and go back to the questions and see what questions that we might have here. So can we talk about recommendations for someone like me, a small bookkeeping service? I currently have 3 different versions of QuickBooks Payroll due to various needs of my customers. Is this a good idea, or should I just specialize in one payroll product? Sylvia, that's a hard question, and part of it depends on how you're working with your clients on that. Hopefully, as we get through the rest of these slides, you'll have a better idea of which way you want to go. My tendency, I think as people who provide payroll or collaborate with our clients, I tend to use Enhanced Payroll as a desktop or Intuit Online Payroll. Now, Don asks, when you're saying the cloud, is that both cloud hosting and QuickBooks Online or just one or the other? So great question, because basically what I'm saying on there, I'm just talking about the cloud in general, using internet access, using software as a service. And it could be using a hosted solution with QuickBooks Desktop and one of the desktop payroll solutions. It could be using QuickBooks Online. It could be using a combination. So Benedict talks about QuickBooks Online Plus with payroll is $99 and $2 an employee. So that's added to your subscription for QuickBooks Online is the addition of adding payroll to it, which brings it up to that $99. So Deanna asked about having an employee with child support. I don't think that that's the case. You can have child support. You can set up those payroll items, but you're not going to be able to automatically pay them through the online payroll solution there. You know what, I have a lot of good questions here, and I appreciate those questions. But what I'm going to do is keep moving on, and maybe some of these questions will get answered because next we have the Intuit Online Payroll for Accountants, and we have a lot of material to cover, so I just want to make sure that we get through it, and as long as Stephanie will let me stay on and answer any questions that anybody has. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the Intuit Online Payroll for Accounting Professionals, or IOP4A is the acronym for that. It is basically the same product as Intuit Online Payroll, but it has additional features that allow us to control the payroll and certainly allows us to grow in that part of our practice if we choose to go ahead and do that. So this is a payroll product that allows us to run payroll online for our clients anytime, anywhere with an internet connection with guaranteed accurate calculations for federal, state, and local taxes. It includes the direct deposit. We can e-pay most of the state taxes and the federal taxes, e-file the filings, again, federal filings and a lot of the state filings. And then the addition that we have is that there's an employee, the client website, where they can log in and collaborate with us on however we might want to collaborate with them. The employees can actually view their pay stubs online, and the employer can log in and see their particular area there. And again, this has a seamless integration both with QuickBooks and other leading accounting solutions. So when we log into IOP4A, so we as accounting professionals or bookkeepers sign up for IOP4A, we are going to see Intuit's branding, and we'll have a listing of all of our clients. When our clients log in, they are going to see our branding. They would see MB Raimondi CPA on there, knowing that they're buying the payroll services from us. So basically how IOP4A works is Intuit charges us, and then we charge our clients, and we'll talk a little bit more about pricing later. So again, when we look at our paychecks, we're going to decide how we want to share the responsibility. We could actually have our clients to enter their own paychecks, and then we would make the tax deposits and do the quarterly and annual filings. We can also have our clients enter their own time, which will then feed into payroll. There's an extra charge for entering time, but one of the cool things about it is that it will go ahead and split out straight time and overtime, which is really pretty handy. So it's kind of up to us, and you go back to that beginning slide with all those client needs as to how we're going to collaborate with our client as to how much we're going to do versus how much they're going to do. Now, we can create different kinds of paychecks. We can create regular paychecks, bonus paychecks, commissions, fringe adjustments, and then pretty much the process is we create, we approve, and then we either view and print doing direct deposit, or we can actually print off those checks. And then we've got reports. We've got a lot of reports in IOP4A that will help us for our records. We can save them as a PDF. We can, I believe we can go ahead and email them so that we can share that information with our clients, and we can have ready access to what that payroll information is. Now, the taxes that we have here, we get the e-payment confirmation. We can e-pay all of our federal in 42 states. So this is the same as our clients get if they sign up for Intuit Online Payroll on the Plus, so no problem there. We can file federal forms in 31 states. Our name, if we're using IOP4A, we're going to be entered as a third-party preparer so that we'll be able to speak with the taxing authorities, which is really pretty nice there. And again, we can e-file or print off the Form W-2s. So how does Intuit help us with Intuit Online Payroll? Well, they will help us get started and find new clients. There's marketing materials. There's a pricing guide. Because remember, Intuit's charging us, and then we're charging our client. There's a client startup checklist. I mean, there's just really a lot of payroll resources there when we sign up for IOP4A. And you notice the little bar on the right-hand side. It has won a lot of awards because it's really a nice solution. So our next slide, we're going to talk about, we'll see on pricing. So when we're looking at the pricing, the pricing depends on how many clients we have is how we're going to get charged. So the more clients we have, the less per month we're going to get charged. It's always $50 per employee, but it is, if we have 2 to 5 clients, it's going to be $19.99 per client. If we have 6 to 20, it drops to $15.99, and then you see up there, I don't have to read the slide to you. If you wanted to add time tracking, it's $2 per employee per client or per employee per month, basically, which is, so that's a pretty cheap time tracking feature. If you've looked at some of the other time tracking solutions that integrate into QuickBooks, this is one that is pretty cost effective there. So again, who is it not for? Just like Intuit Online Payroll, third-party sick pay, amended returns, can't have more than one bank account for different electronic services. So I can't say pay the payroll out of one account and take my fees out of another account. That's also true for Intuit Online Payroll. So just a recap here of Intuit Online Payroll for accountants. So clients log in through white label, meaning we have branded the site with our brand, our logo on there. We can share responsibility with the client. Our name is added to the form so that the taxing agencies can contact us directly. We've got that wholesale pricing. And I just wanted to add on this is that we can also print on blank check stock. So that's, if we're offering payroll to a lot of different clients, we might, and they're old school and they want us to actually print the checks off, we don't have to make sure that we're picking the right checks out. I mean, that's like the biggest nightmare, right? Am I going to print one client's payroll on another client's check stock? That would be really kind of scary. So you might want to use the blank check stock, and you can do that with Intuit Online Payroll for accountants. Now let's talk about common features between Intuit Online Payroll for accountants and then Intuit Online Payroll, because there are some common features that we haven't talked about. So the first one is Contractor Support, which I alluded to before, that we have the ability that we can do direct deposit either in Intuit Online Payroll or in Intuit Online Payroll for accountants. We can offer direct deposit for contractors. Excuse me. We can prepare the forms 1099, and for an extra fee, we can file those 1099s electronically. So this is not in QuickBooks Online Payroll, but it's in regular Intuit Online Payroll and Intuit Online Payroll for accountants. Accounting integration. So when you look at this screen here, you can see, excuse me, I didn't want to cough in your ear again, that there's a drop down here of the accounting software that IOP and IOP4A can export to. So not only the QuickBooks solutions, but other solutions if you have clients on other accounting programs. So that's really pretty cool. And just to let you know how it does the downloading, it does download each individual paycheck. So when you're using a third-party payroll solution and they say that they integrate into QuickBooks, I do not think I have seen any of them that have done anything more than a journal entry into QuickBooks, so it's a summary entry into QuickBooks for the payroll. Well, if you're using IOP or IOP4A, you are going to see the individual paychecks in your QuickBooks. So they're not going to be called paychecks. They're not the transaction type called paychecks. They're the transaction type called checks. But you will have that detail in there, and then when you're looking at your P&L and your balance sheet, you're going to see accurate information. Now, another thing that you can do in both IOP and IOP4A is job costing. Now, this is fairly new. I would say, I don't know, within the last 6 months or maybe a year. So where you can, when you're syncing with your desktop version of QuickBooks, it uses the Sync Manager, and it will sync your customers and your items up to the online payroll, which then can be assigned on the paycheck itself, which is really kind of a nice feature to have. So we now have job costing. Now both Intuit Online Payroll and Intuit Online Payroll for accountants have a mobile app. So again, not QuickBooks Online Payroll. You'd have to log into a browser on your tablet or your phone. But with IOP or IOP4A, you can actually, when you look at it here, you can see on IOP4A, you can see a list of your clients. You can, and then for both IOP and IOP4A, you can create checks, file tax forms, look at the pay history, look at your contact list, pay your employees. I mean, how cool is that? So if you're using your self-service, pretty much anywhere, you can go ahead and process payroll using these two solutions, which is really pretty nice. And again, you can get the reminders. Now, it works with iPhones and Android, this mobile app. So to my knowledge, it does not work with BlackBerry. It either has to be an Android operating system or one of the I's. Now, there are Intuit Online Payroll add-ons. We talked about the time tracking, so that's for an extra fee. There is the ability to track and pay your workers' comp, so there's a couple different providers there so that you have accurate calculations. It's nice to have a pay-as-you-go program so that you're not hit with something really big at year-end when they do the workers' comp audit. There's multi-state options there. You also have, again, with IOP and IOP4A, the 1099 e-filing service. And last but not least, there's a health debit card. So if they have health plans and you want to provide health debit cards, again, all of these are additional features. You have to pay additionally for that, which is really pretty cool. So let me see how I'm doing for time here. Just go back and look at our questions. See if I can take a couple more. Diana's asking for, does it work with the most recent operating system for the iPad? Diana, I am not the right person to ask that. I am not an I person at all. I'm an Android person, so maybe somebody else can post that answer if they know that. I'm sorry that I can't help you with that. So Greg asks if time clock data can be uploaded into IOP4A. I'm assuming you're talking about another application that keeps track of time that's not one of the QuickBooks. I mean, if you're using IOP4A, you're using the time sheets. I mean, you're better off using the time tracking in QuickBooks, but if you have to have an actual time clock, I don't know of an import, but that doesn't mean there is not one, Greg. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that. Heather asked if the paycheck detail imports into QuickBooks or is it just the net pay? It is the actual paycheck broken down, and so it will hit the gross and the appropriate accounts, so that when you look at your P&L, it will be all the detail will be there. Now, I might not have been clear on this because Stephanie asked the question, does IOP and IOP4A support other payroll items? And absolutely. So you will be able to add additional payroll items. I think I confused people when I said it doesn't cut those third-party checks. It's just that if I am integrating into QuickBooks where with a garnishment or a 401k or medical insurance contribution, I'm going to need to make sure that I set up that bill in my QuickBooks solution to make sure that those get paid. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. You guys have a lot of really good questions, and I appreciate that. But I want to keep on moving so that we get through the material. And again, once we get through the material, I'll come back and answer questions. So the next payroll solution, and we're still in cloud payroll here, that we're going to talk about is the Intuit Full Service Payroll. So the beauty of Intuit Full Service Payroll, it is similar to using an outside payroll service. I mean, it is an outside payroll service like ADP or Paychecks, but it has a much, 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 much better QuickBooks integration. So IFSP, Intuit has to shorten everything. So Intuit Full Service Payroll, IFSP, is Intuit's online solution that competes against other full-service payroll providers like Paychecks or ADP. You still have that same guarantee that Intuit has for all of their payroll solutions, that you're going to have error-free paychecks and tax payments. When you're using IFSP, Intuit's actually going to help get everything. It's going to set up the payroll for our clients, hassle-free payroll, peace of mind. I don't know about you, the more that I've used Intuit forever. I've used QuickBooks since the DOS version, and they've, only made it better and better over the years. And Intuit is a great company to be backing the solutions that I am recommending to my clients on that. So this is really kind of a hassle-free payroll, and Intuit's taking care of it for me. And even though it's an outside payroll service, you'll find that it is pretty cost efficient compared to using some of the other payroll services. So basically what happens when you're talking about full service payroll, again, we're not doing anything, right? This is where we come in, and we're a recommender on this. If we want to process payroll, we're going to use IOP4A. But all we're doing is recommending, you know what, we don't want to grow our practice that way, but we don't want our clients to have to worry about anything. Somebody has to enter the hours, no matter what payroll solution you do. If you have hourly people, you have to enter the hours. And one of the cool things about full-service payroll when you're entering those hours is that if those hours are out of line from what has happened in previous paychecks, you're going to get a little pop-up there. So that's really nice. If I type in 350 rather than 35, I'm going to get a pop-up. And it doesn't even have to be that drastic. It will just say, well, this looks a lot different than what you had last time or what you've had in the past. Are you sure that you're entering it correctly? Now, there is a mobile app that goes with Intuit Full Service Payroll, so you can enter your hours via the mobile app, same as what we do for IOP or IOP4A. So when this Create Checks that's on here, that's really entering the hours and authorizing the payroll. So even though this mobile app looks very similar to IOP and IOP4A, you're not actually creating the checks. You are authorizing the creation of the checks by entering the hours and saying it's okay for IFSP to create the checks. Now notice also you're going to be able to see the upcoming taxes, you'll be able to see your payroll history, you'll be able to see the employee list. So basically this next slide just says, you know what, we're going to do everything for you. You have to give us a list of your employees and things like that, but once we're set up from the information you provide to us, then we're going to take care of everything for you once you get those hours in and authorized. Now, accounting integration, exports to QuickBooks, no-click process for QuickBooks Desktop. Again, don't need to have QuickBooks at all, but it does integrate. It uses the Sync Manager to work with QuickBooks Desktop, and this is probably one of the biggest time-saving differences between Intuit Full Service Payroll and other outside payroll solutions. You could charge your clients. You could sign up for the Intuit Full Service Payroll and then charge your clients for that, or you could have your clients sign up for it directly. Again, great QuickBooks integration, and when our next slide is going to show that it imports into QuickBooks Desktop with the full check details. So this kind of answers your question because this is the same as IOP and IOP4A on there. It will also export to QuickBooks Online. So full service payroll is going to work with your QuickBooks solutions, and even full service payroll, when it integrates with QuickBooks Online, you are going to get a check with full detail. And we can't forget our Mac users, so it does QuickBooks Desktop Windows, QuickBooks Desktop Mac, and QuickBooks Online. Let's take a look here at the Intuit Full Service Payroll pricing. So what you want to make sure you do is you want to be the recommender for Intuit Full Service Payroll so that our clients get the accountant pricing. So the accountant pricing, now this is not just Pro Advisor, this is accountant referral. Any accountant referral for IFSP, they are going to get a lower price than what they see out at the website. So the lower price is $75 a month plus $2 per employee. And the non-accountant pricing is $99 a month. So you're saving them, $14 a month by you being the referring person. So $75 plus $2, and this chart just shows you the ability that and it shows you the column there of, what are the features of ADP and Paychecks versus the features of using Intuit Full Service Payroll. So just to recap on our Intuit Full Service Payroll, you do get a complete setup, right? It's got that guaranteed error-free, it's got the error detection technology, so if you're out of range from a prior paycheck, you have the error-free guarantee. They're doing the payroll tax filings and the payroll tax payments. You get support via phone, email, or chat, and then you get reminders because that tax payment does not come out just when you create payroll. What if you're a monthly filer? You don't have to, that money is not going to be pulled out of your account until it's time to actually make those tax deposits. So you're going to get a reminder for the timing of those tax payments, obviously, to make sure that you have money in the account when Intuit goes to pull it out. So who is it recommended for? Customers who want a hassle-free payroll. They kind of want the fix it and forget it, enter the hours and forget it mentality, that they don't want to have to worry about any errors because they'll get that error-free guarantee. Certainly, you have to look at clients, what their level of controllership needs to be, meaning some of my clients are very controlling and they want their hands in everything. So maybe IFSP isn't going to be a solution for them. It's going to be the solution for somebody who just wants to say, okay, I want somebody to go ahead and take care of this. It's detached from QuickBooks, but it has the integration that you need. Again, we're talking about 150 employees on there. I don't know. I don't know who it's not right for, except for if you have more than 150 employees. Now, Snap Payroll. Snap Payroll, I told you I'd talk about before, and then we're going to go into the desktop solutions, and I want to leave time at the end when we may have 5 minutes at the end to go through some of these questions on here. So Snap Payroll is a free iPhone app, and that makes me growl at Intuit because I already told you I'm not an I person, I'm an Android person, and it's not an Android app, it's an iPhone app that you can get in the iTunes store. It's free, and you can actually calculate paychecks in minutes. It's really kind of cool. It only works with 12 states, but on this app, you would set up the employees and you put in, I think it's the federal W-4 information, and then you can put in how many hours did they work, and it will give them what their net pay has to be. So tax rates are updated on there. It will calculate the paychecks with the correct taxes on there, and then you can look at the payroll history. So that's for our accountants who refuse to do anything. And my understanding is that you can email this info to us the accountant or whoever the accounting professional is. I know that I had a client who was in Quicken, would manually calculate out her payroll, and it was amazing how many mistakes she made. She wouldn't multiply by the right FICA percentage or Medicare percentage. So if she had an app like Snap Payroll, at least it would calculate the payroll taxes if she wanted to manually then, and that's what would happen, right, is then you would manually have to write out those paychecks, but it would calculate the taxes correctly. So it's really kind of cool, right? Snap Payroll, look for it in your iTunes store. So let's go through in our last couple of minutes we have here the desktop payroll solutions. So what we're talking about here is the Windows desktop payroll solutions. I know a lot of you are familiar with them, and that's why I put them at the end and don't want to spend very much time on them, but I think that we just need to review them. So we have Basic Payroll. Basic Payroll it's an easy setup process. What you get is the tax tables and the ability to create your paychecks. You cannot pay the taxes. You cannot, through QuickBooks, you cannot file the forms. So when we're talking about Basic Payroll, we're talking they're using QuickBooks Desktop. Maybe they're very knowledgeable, new and smaller employees with simple payroll requirements. They have a relatively stable payroll. They want more control. that maybe they're going to go ahead and use basic payroll, and probably the presumption is that they're working with their accounting professional to pay the taxes and to actually pay the taxes, or certainly file the tax forms, because there's no tax forms in basic payroll. Clients who aren't right for basic, somebody who doesn't have a tax accountant, somebody who has multiple states, somebody who has large number of employees, new employers who really don't know what they're doing. Then we have enhanced payroll. Again, we're talking about a desktop solution. Not only do we get the tax tables, but we also have the ability to e-pay our taxes and e-file our forms. So it makes it a lot easier, a lot more automatic. So who is that appropriate for? Employers who want to manage payroll themselves. Maybe they have staff that are knowledgeable. Certainly it makes it so much easier to e-pay your taxes and e-file your forms. It doesn't really support multiple states, though there are workarounds for multiple states. If anybody, who wouldn't you recommend it for? Somebody who's really not knowledgeable with payroll. Now, I'll tell you how I've worked with clients of mine in the past where they've gone ahead and created the paychecks and e-filed or e-paid their taxes, but then I've logged in remotely to e-file their forms and just review the payroll. So I have clients, again, that I collaborate with that I still recommend enhanced payroll for e-paying those taxes. Now, as accountants, we have the desktop solution as enhanced payroll for accountant, and it's the same as regular enhanced payroll, but we can support up to 50 EINs, and we can also do after-the-fact payroll, and we have some client-ready payroll reports that have our information on it. So we can print out the reports and give it to our clients. Then there's assisted payroll. Again, working with a desktop solution where we create the paychecks, then we upload the information to Intuit via the internet. They make the tax deposits, they do the quarterly filings, they do the annual filings. I recommend assisted payroll when we are talking about somebody who wants to do job costing. I definitely recommend that. You can do up to like 250 employees with assisted payroll. Certainly somebody who doesn't want to have to worry about the government filings and forms, and all of the payroll solutions you can offer direct deposit. So the desktop solutions, it's an extra fee as opposed to the cloud-based solutions there. And I think that's what I have on here. So let's just see on our learning objectives. I think we've pretty much gone over those. So we have more information. Again, you'll see that in your slideshow. And then I just want to show you some current promotions. So IOP4A has one on a promotion that you get one client free for a year. So you, as the accountant, sign up for it. You get one client free for a year. That's for any accounting professional that's new to IOP4A. For Intuit Full Service Payroll, you get a free year for yourself or one of your clients. These are really cool promotions. You can pass savings on to your clients. The first client you refer gets the 1 year free. Later referrals get that $75 rather than the $99. So let me go back and use my last couple minutes to answer questions, just so that you can have them. And then make sure to download the PowerPoint, and you will get CPE in that follow-up email. So Heather says, since Paychecks import as checks, then can anyone that has checking and credit card access see the payroll details? The answer would be yes on that. With QuickBooks Desktop, you can block this by giving them access to no payroll. So that's something that you have to consider. So it's a great point there. If they have check access, then they're going to be able to see that. Great question. What happens if I have more than 50 EINs? You know, Benedict, I'm not sure that I know the answer to that. So are you saying 50 active EINs? You'll probably have to buy another solution for enhanced payroll for accountant, but I'm not 100% sure on that. If they are not active, you can call and get off the old EINs so that you can add more EINs. Stephanie, whenever you need me to cut off, otherwise I'm going to keep answering questions here.
Yeah, no, go ahead, keep going.
Okay. Can you automate collection of your fee from your client through IOP or IOP4A? I'm assuming that you're talking about, Diana. I wonder if you could set yourself up. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm wondering if you could set yourself up as a vendor and do direct deposit. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do that. I've seen it happen with enhanced payroll for accountants where the accountant who's providing payroll sets themselves up an employee with no withholding so they can get the direct deposit. I think that I would do the same thing here. I mean, I would set myself up as a vendor. Can transactions from IOP4A be imported into QuickBooks Enterprise? Yes, any of the QuickBooks desktop solutions, including Mac. Does accountant need enhanced payroll for accountants to work with and review their client's enhanced payroll file? You know, Diane, I would say, what do you mean work with? If your client has enhanced payroll and they're paying for that subscription, you're logging into their fully licensed. I don't think that you're going to have an issue with that. We use EFTPS to pay taxes and get a confirmation number directly from the IRS. So what happens, and that brings up a really good point, Connie, in order to e-pay your taxes, you have to be signed up for EFTPS. And then you get another number through Intuit, if you're using the Intuit desktop solution, that allows Intuit to, your payroll tax deposit is going through the Intuit servers and out to EFTPS, and you get a confirmation and you get, you'll know that it's accepted. These are great questions, you guys. Elaine asked if there's a solution for multi-state employer, so located in one state but work on several states on a regular basis. The workaround is to run 2 payrolls per paycheck, changing the employee defaults each time. That really, Elaine, is the solution. It's not ideal on there. If the employee is not working in 2 different states in one pay period, it's not as much of a hassle as it is if they are. And then if they're working in 2 different states in one pay period, you really need to be careful about what you're doing there on that. So it does get a little cumbersome there. Can users be set up for IFSP with different levels of authority? Remember Intuit Full Service Payroll. Intuit is doing everything. So, oh, I see what you're saying. Can staff enter, they're entering time, and you're saying they want to enter the hours but not see any of the salary info. I don't think that in IFSP they see the salary info. They're just seeing that it's a salaried employee. I'd have to get back to you on that one just to make sure on there. Okay. Oh, my goodness. When using Intuit to pay taxes through EFTPS, is the money taken from the client's bank account immediately, or is it taken on the date it's paid to the IRS? It's taken out. So when you schedule the payment in QuickBooks for that tax payment, if you're talking about the desktop solutions, you say what date you want that payment made, and that is the date that it's coming out. If I have a different tax software, can I integrate it with IOP4A to pay my client's taxes from there rather than using Intuit? Benedict, you've been asking some really tough questions here. So you're saying you have a different payroll software that you want to pull information out of IOP4A and then pay your client's taxes? I am not sure the answer to that. I'm not even, he's saying yes, that's what he means. I would have to look and see what other export information that IOP4A has that maybe then you could import it into your other solution. So IOP4A, can you sell that to the customer as a service similar to Paychecks? Yes, that's absolutely right. And Thomas, I'm glad you asked that question because we get charged X amount from Intuit, but we turn around and charge our client whatever we want to charge them. And the more clients we have on it, our fee goes down, but that doesn't mean that we're going to lower the fee to our clients. So you can beat the outside payroll services, but still be making money. And again, the more clients you have, the more money you're making, which is nice.
Hi, MB. This is Stephanie. Hey, guys. I appreciate everybody sticking around. There are still lots of questions coming in, and I think really the best thing to do right now is our exhibit hall is open, and we do have a payroll services booth, so it is staffed. So if you would like to go into the virtual conference environment and go into that exhibit hall and go ahead and ask our payroll team some of your questions, I think MB might be heading over that way as well, so she'll be able to answer them there as well. That would be, I think you'll be able to get your questions answered faster. And if there are any unanswered questions after I end today's session, we'll try to follow up later to get you answers that you have, or get you answers to the questions that you have. So for now, MB, are you good? Do you want to take another one?
I thank everybody for attending, and I am, if I can figure out how to get into the exhibit booth. Find my meeting link for that. I'm heading right over there, and I'll stay in the exhibit booth as long as we need to. So thanks, Stephanie, and I think you're right. We're probably better off ending the session, and everybody, let's go have a party at the payroll booth, and if you want to bring a glass of wine, that would be great.
I agree with that. I share those sentiments. I know it's only middle of the afternoon here, but I'm ready. So, all right, guys, I really appreciate your time today. MB, thank you so much. You are a superstar as always. Again, everyone, if you want to head over to that payroll booth that's in the exhibit hall of the virtual conference, we can get your questions answered there. For your CPE, just want a reminder that you will have received an email that will have your instructions for how you get CPE. So be on the lookout for that. And we're really excited. We have one more session left today. This is going to be the Grow Your Practice Using QuickBooks Online with Stacy Kildall, and that's going to start at 2:30 Central. So be sure to come back and check that out. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the session. So thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.